talk about
Yes,
that.
no.
Okay. Trust me, it's hard for some people to grasp what you do.
They're jealous of your passion because a lot of people don't have that passion for anything. I've dated like I date women, right? So I've dated them and they're like, why do you like this so much? And I'm like, well, like, don't you have anything you love? They're like, well, my kids. And I'm like, don't you have a hobby? And they're like, oh, I watch TVs. I'm like,
That's not a
you don't
hobby.
I know.
You're not producing anything.
I
You're
know.
just absorbing
They
something.
have no creative outlet, and so
No.
many people I meet are like that.
So Terry was his name, and he's the sheriff, and he ran the school. Ken Patera started kind of disappearing out of it because he was getting up there, older, moving away from the business. So Terry took it over, and one of his students, who was excellent, named Shifty, also did a lot of coaching. And so they invited me, and they treated me like family, as good pro wrestling does.
Exactly.
Right?
It's a
And so yeah, it's a brotherhood and a
Of course,
sisterhood.
sisterhood as well.
Yeah, and so and then that he whenever I had the chance, because being a teacher is a good thing. I have time off, like March break, summer, Christmas. I was always on a jet from Toronto to Minneapolis. I even think the U.S. border guards were getting really used at the airport in Toronto. Were getting used to seeing me. They're like, I remember you. You're going to Minneapolis again. What the hell is going on there that you're always traveling there for? I said, well, it's for wrestling. They're like, oh, okay. Anyway, so I went
What
there.
year was this around that you started training?
So this would be, let me do it by age. I'm 46 now, so that would be around 24.
So 95?
Yeah, we're heading somewhere 95, 96.
There's no way you're 46, dude.
I'm 46.
Seriously? Wow, you're in better shape than I am.
But I'm 46, believe me. But so I started training there, and he is very old school in his training sensibilities, right? Because Ken Patera taught him. Like Ken Patera is like my wrestling granddad in a way, right? I'm learning the things that my instructor learned from him and passed on, and so on. And so the training was excellent. It was formal, safety first, all that kind of stuff. Smart training,
right?
Not stupid training, right? Where you're expected to burn yourself out and destroy your body and have no career at all, right? And that happens a lot. Let's be honest. There are some places that don't do a good job. He did a fantastic job.
People want to learn, like when I started training, I'm like, when can I jump off the top rope? And they're like, no.
Not yet. No, that's exactly right. He says, maybe next year we'll be doing that, right? Like he did it the slow, methodical way. Like I would be bumping, it's just like the Karate Kid, right? Wax on, wax off, paint up, paint down. You have to learn the basic stuff before you can even imagine doing anything else. Because if you do not have those forms down pat, you cannot wrestle. Period.
And
you do not know what to do. If you do not, it's just like dance, and you're in a ballet class. You do not do a performance without knowing the forms and the positions and the postures. It's the same shit.
I agree.
You have to learn the structure first to do the things you want to do. And people rush ahead way up in the learning and forget about the foundations. And as a kindergarten teacher, I know foundations are everything, because if there is no foundation, the house falls. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so
I'm not disagreeing.
I know, I'm just I'm lecturing here. So sorry, I'm going into Sarge mode.
3 more weeks.
So here we go. So I was thankful for that. Like I learned to bump properly, to run the ropes properly, to have ring awareness, to figure out left over right, all that stuff properly, formed with good form, not sloppy looking. And because I like a lot of, and I by no means think of myself as awesome, but I think I've been around it long enough to know that, sometimes I watch indie shows and everything is so rushed, no attention paid to details, how moves look, how they're executed. That's kind of not the safe way of doing things. I gotta work on Monday.
Well, also, there's trainers that are training people that don't know any of the stuff, and they're training people, and it's a trickle down effect. So it's getting like it's phasing out the real training.
That's
almost.
right. And I was fortunate that when I came to visit with him, I would get a lot, and he would have a few of his other workers training too, but I would get a lot of personalized attention, which I thought was really awesome. And then, I started, when I started, so I've been doing this in my 30s, and I had a gimmick called Max Attitude, and I did some stuff with him in the States.
Like
but,
some shows, like you started.
Yeah. And I started then training with W.I.L.L.I.W in Toronto. I thought, I'm having my life in Toronto got very busy because art became very busy. My teaching job that I had became very busy. And traveling to Minneapolis was just not an option, right? I had to stick closer to home. And so I phoned Rob Fuego, and I knew that Squared Circle was very lucha oriented, which is not my style.
Right.
I would say my style would be something more classic, what people in the States, old timers would refer to as Southern style. Slow, methodical, well thought out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so you weren't sure if you'd fit in there.
So I wasn't sure if I would fit in there, and I said, so I phoned him up one day, and I said, hi Rob, and I explained my background and stuff. He said, no, come on down. I can teach you what you want to learn. And I'll teach you things that will help you improve in that style of wrestling that you want to do. He was really flexible. And in fact, he is an amazing teacher.
Everyone says that.
Now that, I have my friend Tom who comes over and wrestles in my ring, and we work out together. And he says when I teach, I sound like Rob Fuego, because I do. Because I learn so much good stuff from him. And it's not the big things, it's the little things.
Well, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right?
That's right. Yeah, but it's also the details. Like, for example, here's a case. Let's say someone is pinning you and you're throwing them off. Do you keep your face looking up and forward, or you turn your head sideways? You turn your head sideways so the person rolling over you, when you're throwing them off, doesn't tear off your nose.
Yeah, the small things.
The small things that matter.
Can be big things.
That
right?
can be really big things, right? So that's what he's good at. He's really thorough. And I loved it there. And I thrived there. And boy, did I ever get proficient. And there was a point where I, as I got older, in my 30s and into my mid 30s now, I need to be out working more shows, right? I did shows now and again and stuff, and did some kind of fun stuff on the side for myself. But so I had also decided that my Toronto life was over.
Oh wow,
That
that's a big decision.
Well, no, it's just a growing up decision. I had moved to Toronto to go to grad school, and I stuck around. And I stuck around for almost 15 years. That's a pretty good amount of time.
That's a good run.
Yeah, it's a good chunk of time. And I thrived in the art world there, and I made good connections with good people there. They'll never, as I learned this weekend, they never go away.
Nice.
So they're always there, and they're just down the road. But I also am in a phase of life where I, now being 46, and my parents being in their mid to late 70s, I'm getting into caretaker mode.
Right.
So my sister and I talked on the phone, sort of briefly, and I said, I think I'm moving back to London, Colleen. And she said, I think that's a good idea. Because my sister lives here in Waterloo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And she has at the time had 3 younger children. Now 2 are in university, 1 is still in high school. And so they're getting up there now. But at the time, she had her hands full, and I'm single. Right. So I'm the one, I said, I'm the one who's gonna go home. Because, and be closer to them. It makes sense, it's practical, yeah. And like I say, Toronto's just 2 hours down the road. It's
you
no
could
big
go
deal.
for the weekend.
Yes, that's right, yes, or I could just chat with somebody online. So, you know what I mean, I can always keep connections there.
Can I ask one thing though? Were your parents supportive of you wrestling? Like, did you tell them?
Yeah, I told them all about it. You know, I never bring my parents to shows, and I'll tell you why. because my mom has a heart condition.
Oh, okay.
And I don't think she could handle watching. I think it would actually, so it'd be protective. I would actually love for them to see it, but I also think I'm not sure I want to put her through that stress and anxiety, because it's a work, and works are believable, and I don't want her to fear and be anxious and worried.
Yeah, no.
That's not good for her health.
I
So
agree.
I just talk about it. They know, like, there's a wrestling ring at my house, so they know that I love it. But they give me my own personal space to do those things. I have really cool parents. I have a really cool family.
Sounds like it.
I'm fortunate. I'm very blessed.
So when you moved back to London, so the decision.
So
was
then
made.
I really went all out into sort of the indie scene. I had great training at Squared Circle, and I was so really confident. And I started working for PWX, which became CCW, Classic Championship Wrestling.
Was PWX in Tilsonburg?
One based out of Tilsonburg.
I did a
Virginia.
couple of the Tilsonburg shows
Did you do
when
some
they
of-
first started, yeah.
Right. And so I probably arrived just a little bit after that.
Like I was like 2003, 2004.
Right, I would be 2008.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah.
Right, so there we go. So I came and I worked my way in, and Jay McDonald, the promoter, he actually helped create my gimmick. He said to
Were
me,
you still Max Attitude at
yeah,
that
at the
point?
time, yeah, and so but I needed to make a change. My life was changing, and I was getting older, right? I'm not in my 20s anymore. I'm not sure Max Attitude is an appropriate gimmick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Things evolve. And as you watch, even with big name wrestlers, their life evolves too, right?
And changing with the times.
And changing
yeah.
with the times and with what's expected of them. Because when you work for a corporate, you do as you're a corporate fed, you do as you're told.
Yeah, no, without a doubt.
Yeah, and the stylist is styling how the boss wants you to look.
That's what's best about indies is you
I
can,
know.
You can do it your way, really.
That's correct. And I'm a bit of a renegade in life. I'm not big at taking orders from other people or being told what to do. I am pretty stubborn sometimes in some ways, and sometimes I'm very generous. But in terms of controlling my own image, that's something I think I can handle. So I talked to Jay, and he said, what are two types of characters you could imagine yourself being? So I sat and I reflected on pro wrestling that I watched growing up, and the characters that really turned my crank and I really loved. And there were those kind of cowboy, redneck, country boy type pro wrestler, that kind of shtick, or the military type shtick.
And
right?
they always draw good heat. Like it's usually for a heel a lot of times.
Yeah, and usually it's for a heel. Sometimes, like for example, like there are faces that are cowboys. Like I'm thinking of Sam Houston at one time.
Oh yeah.
Barry Windham had more of a cowboyish, he'd wear a bandana around his neck and country wrestling boots,
Or even the Big Boss Man for a while was very popular in the 80s.
Oh yeah, very much. Yeah, he was well received. And so I gave him those two options, and out of his mouth right away he said military. Okay. So the following weekend I had a friend from Ohio visiting, and he also worked as a pro wrestler, but he was way up there. He was like, what, 55 to 60, somewhere in that range. So he didn't do it anymore. But he came to work out with me and whatever, and after working out, we went out for dinner, and I said, listen, the Fed that I'm starting working with would like me to have a military gimmick. And he said, well, let me think about that. I've been in the military. And he said, perhaps you should just be a sergeant or, some title, and a last name that's a really military sounding last name. Either, he said, you could be something like Sergeant Cannon, Sergeant Bullet, so you're actually making a connection to military hardware and weaponry or something like that.
Right.
Or, he said to me, there's no time for you. I'm in the middle of an interview.
Too many fans.
So I said, listen, he wants me to be a military guy. And he said, you know what? When I was in the military, I ran into so many guys who had the last name Dixon. Dixon. And he said, that would draw a lot of heat. And I said, yeah, it would. Like, Sarge is a dick, right? They're like, right, like stuff like that. And it has a bit of play on words in gay culture too. So anyways,
Yeah, right.
you know what I'm getting at?
So it really hit close to your heart.
Yeah,
right?
but in that, but, so I made a list of all these military names for Jay. And I think I messaged him through Facebook. Facebook was around, been around for a long time now. I was there since its inception, and
Yes.
it's scary. And so I made this list of names like Sergeant Cannon, Sergeant Bullet. I can't remember them all, like Sergeant, I don't know, stuff like that. And then I put Sergeant Dixon. So I sent him this message with about 10 names. He didn't even take 30 seconds to reply. Sergeant Dixon.
So you're
Is
on
your
the same
name.
page with them.
So he was on the same page with my friend from Ohio who came to work out with me and said, that would be a good name for you. And I thought, well, that's a sign, right? I better take on this identity.
It's meant to be.
It's
yeah.
meant to be.
Yeah.
So I